Shining Victories is the last booster set of the 2015-2016 dueling season, but it is by no means the least. Actually, to tell you the truth, Shining Victories is my favorite of the 4 main boosters that we put out this season, and I'll show you why. It's because this guy, Blue Eyes White Dragon, the original and the best. For the first time since the saga of Blue Eyes White Dragon structure deck came out back in 2013, you can now make a competitive, but also really fun to play, Blue Eyes White Dragon deck. And I'd be happy to show you what I came up with. So, normally everything in these decks I show you is totally negotiable. You can make any changes you want. In this case, I think you should play 3 Blue Eyes. Not only do you need all 3 of them for the deck to function properly, I'm also of the opinion that you haven't really lived until you've summoned all 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons at the same time. It is an absolute blast, and you can do it with regularity with this deck. I also played 2 of the new Dragon Spirit of White. This is a new variant on Blue Eyes White Dragon. It's always treated as a Blue Eyes card, but it has main character monster stats, 2500 attack, 2000 defense. Always treated as a Blue Eyes, and it's also a normal monster while it's in your hand or graveyard. That's going to come into play a lot later, as we'll have many effects that work with normal monsters, particularly normal monsters in your hand or graveyard. What I really like about Dragon Spirit of White is that it has a built-in spell and trap removal effect. Whenever you normal or special summon it, you get to banish target spell or trap card that your opponent controls. And since there are so many ways to summon this monster, and you need to summon them all, or summon it a lot for your combos anyways, because you're going to be doing Xyz summons, synchro summons all over the place, it essentially turns the cards that you're using to advance your strategy into spell and trap removal as well. So you get to free up a lot of space in your deck because you don't have to play cards like Twin Twisters. Your revival cards will do it for you with Dragon Spirit of White. In general, you want to try to slim down the number of monsters, or the number of level 8 monsters in your deck, since you can't play them from your hand right away. So I'm not playing the full 3 Dragon Spirits, but I still want 2, because I need to be able to special summon at least one of them from my deck, and also be able to send one of them from my deck to the graveyard for other plays. More on that later. Synchro summoning is a big part of the Blue Eyes deck, and Sage with Eyes of Blue helps you out quite a bit with that. It's a level 1 light tuner, and when you normal summon it, you can add another level 1 light tuner monster from your deck to your hand, except another copy of this. The obvious choice is to use this with Maiden, which I also run a full 3 copies of. Now, Sage also has a secondary effect. Lets you send it from your hand to the graveyard to target one of your effect monsters, send it to the graveyard, and if you do, you get to special summon a Blue Eyes from your deck. This is, actually, it works with Maiden with Eyes of Blue very well. You can target Maiden with this effect, chain her ability to summon Blue Eyes White Dragon from your hand deck or graveyard, and then send her to the graveyard to summon the other Blue Eyes monster from your deck. Maiden, as I just mentioned, if she's targeted by an attack, you can switch her battle position, negate the attack, and then summon the Blue Eyes from hand deck or graveyard. And also, if she's targeted with a card effect, you can do the same thing. Or rather, you can special summon a Blue Eyes from your hand deck or graveyard, not switch her battle position. This effect is critical to the way that I've built the deck, because I've added a lot of different ways for you to target your own monster without having to play cards like Wonder Wand, which don't always work out for you. The tuners keep coming. I've got 3 of the new White Stone of Ancients. White Stone of Ancients has 2 abilities. One is during the end phase, if this card is sent to the graveyard this turn, you can special summon a Blue Eyes monster from your deck. That's part of the reason why I have 2 copies of Dragon Spirit of White. If you're familiar with Dragon Shrine, I want to be able to send one Dragon Spirit of White to the graveyard with Dragon Shrine. It's a normal monster, so then I can also send another dragon, which will send this. And then this in the graveyard during the end phase can special summon the other Dragon Spirit. So that's another reason why I need 2. The other great thing about this is that you can banish it from your graveyard to add a Blue Eyes from your graveyard to your hand. And that means that all of your copies of Trade-In, as soon as you see 1 Blue Eyes and the stone in your graveyard, all of your trade-ins essentially become free. So they act like Pot of Greeds, because you just pick up the card from your graveyard that you are going to discard for it. Also run 1 copy of the White Stone of Legend. It's another tuner, and it'll get you Blue Eyes White Dragon to your hand if you need it. It's also a differently named dragon, which is important for Galaxy Eyes Dark Matter Dragon, which we'll get to later. And similarly, there is Flamvel Guard, another level 1 dragon-type tuner. This one is a normal monster, which is key because nearly all of my special summoning from the graveyard relies on normal monsters. And what I found was that I needed a tuner that I could special summon with extra copies of some of these cards when I drew them off of Max C or whatever. And Flamvel Guard, actually, it's been used for that purpose since the Dragon Ruler days. I had just forgotten it for the time being. This used to be an effect veiler, because you can search that out with Sage with Eyes of Blue, but I found I didn't really need the effect veiler that much. I would rather have had the extra tuner that I could summon back with my spells. What I did find that I needed was 3 copies of Max C, with all of the special summoning being done by Burning Abyss Phantom Knight decks. You really need to be able to at least get some cards off of that. Even if you're not going to stop them from putting out Beatrice and setting a Fogblade or 2 on the first turn, you need to at least be able to build up cards in your hand so that you can fight through and break that board. Moving on to spells. The critical spell for this deck is Mausoleum of White. It's a field spell that gives you an extra normal summon each turn to use on a level 1 light tuner. But it also lets you target one of your monsters, send a normal monster from your hand or deck to the graveyard, to increase that target's attack and defense by 100 times the level of the monster sent until the end of the turn. So what you want, ideally, is to start with Sage with Eyes of Blue and Mausoleum of White in your opening hand. You can activate Mausoleum, use your extra summon on Sage with Eyes of Blue, use that to search out Maiden, and then use your regular normal summon on Maiden. From there, you use Mausoleum to target Maiden, sending one of your blue eyes from the deck to the graveyard, or that will send one of the blue eyes from your deck to the graveyard, and then chain to that effect with the Maidens to special summon a Blue Eyes White Dragon. That'll give you a Blue Eyes on the field along with 2 tuners. You could, for example, Synchro Summon a level 9 and just leave the Maiden on the field, or you could Synchro Summon a level 9 and then, with the level 9 in particular, you can make a play to get Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, but we'll talk about that a bit later. To go with the Mausoleums, since I really want to open up with this combo, I'll also go triple terraforming. I will include a copy of Dragon Ravine, since I'm already using the triple terraformings. That'll give me a way to search out a source of getting dragons into the graveyard. And I'm also going to use 1 copy of Secret Village of the Spellcasters. What I found in my testing is that locking out spell cards is extremely important right now, especially if you're going to play against a lot of Monarch decks. Now, the Maiden is a spellcaster, which gives you another reason to make that field of level 9 Synchro plus Maiden, if you can get that extra copy of, or if you can get the copy of Secret Village into play. There are a few different paths you can take to get some protection from spell cards, but the best one is to have Maiden, a way to protect Maiden, and Secret Village of the Spellcasters. I'm also running a full 3 Dragon Shrines. I'm not running Foolish Burial, actually. What I really need more than anything is to get 2 dragons from the graveyard, not just 1. Dragon Ravine is searchable and lets me get one out of my hand and deck, but Foolish Burial, just sending 1 to the graveyard, didn't really do a lot for me, so I went to 3 Dragon Shrines and then used that extra spot for something else. And I'm also running the 3 Trade-ins, as you so often see in decks like this. You gotta get those blue eyes out of your hand. You really do. And getting them out of your hand for 2 extra cards from your deck is pretty great. Especially once you play the first one and get a White Stone of the Ancients into the graveyard so that you can make all the rest of your trade-ins live, or at least your next one. You'll need a second stone if you want to make the 3rd trade-in live as well. And that just leaves all of the revival cards. Obviously I'm going to play Soul Charge. If you draw Soul Charge, you are probably going to win. I also play 3 Swing of Memories. That special summons a normal monster from your graveyard, but it's destroyed during the end phase. That's part of why I want Flamvel Guard in the deck, because it's a normal monster that's a dragon and also a tuner. So it works with my Dragon Shrine. I could send, say, a Blue Eyes and Flamvel Guard to the graveyard. I could send Guard and Stone. Just having this as an option on Dragon Shrine and for Swing of Memories, etc., is extremely useful. And I've also got Silver's Cry. That is quick play, target a dragon type normal in your graveyard, special summon it. You can only use one of these per turn, but as a quick play you can use one on your turn and one on your opponent's turn. And in combination with Dragon Spirit of White, which if you recall is a normal monster in the graveyard, it essentially turns Silver's Cry into a mystical space typhoon that banishes your opponent's spell or trap. Now, moving on to the extra deck. I alluded to this earlier, but there is a particular level 9 synchro that I think you will want 3 of. Clean this up just a little bit. I'm talking about Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon. Get all that out of the way. Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon. Okay. I run 3 of these. It's a synchro that you summon by combining one tuner with one or more non-tuner Blue Eyes monsters. Keep in mind that Dragon Spirit of White is always considered a Blue Eyes monster, so it is a valid non-tuner material for this. Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon does basically everything you could possibly want. 2500 attack, 3000 defense, much like Azurai's Silver Dragon from the structure deck. Neither player can special summon 2 or more monsters while this card is on the field. Rather, summon 2 or more monsters at the same time. That means that Pendulum Summoning loses its fangs completely while Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon is on the field, because they can only Pendulum Summon 1 monster at a time. That defeats the entire purpose of being able to drop 5 monsters at the same time, in particular from your extra deck. But it also strikes against all of the graveyard reliant strategies lately. During either player's turn, you can use this card's effect to negate the activation of an effect of a card in the graveyard. That is super good against Burning Abyss and Phantom Knights in particular, but it also has some uses against Atlanteans as well. You just have to be careful that they don't order their chain link so that you can't do anything about it. And if you take a close look at the text, it is when the effect of a card in the graveyard is activated. So you could even use this against the Prime Monarch or Pantheism of the Monarchs, giving it further utility in that matchup as well. And if all that wasn't good enough, you can also tribute this anytime during either player's turn, except during the damage step of course, to special summon another Light Dragon Synchro monster from your extra deck. Now, that monster will get destroyed during the end phase of the turn, but you often only need it for that one turn. So, for those, I'm running Azurai Silver Dragon, of course. You can synchro summon this regularly, though you have to keep in mind you can't use Dragon Spirit of White on this one, because it's only a Blue Eyes monster on the field, it's not a normal monster. So you need to use regular Blue Eyes White Dragon for this. But it can revive a Spirit Dragon from your graveyard during your standby phase. Also, until the end of the next turn after this card is special summoned, not just synchro summoned, Dragon-type monsters you control, the ones you control when this is summoned, can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects. And that'll include Azurai's itself. So if you summon it off of Blue Eye Spirit Dragon, you get to keep it. I'm also using Stardust Spark Dragon. Stardust Spark Dragon is a great way to keep your Maiden around, especially if you have her alongside Secret Village of the Spellcasters. So in that scenario I told you about earlier, where you have Sage, Maiden, Blue Eyes, and then the field spell, Secret Village of the Spellcasters, you can synchro summon Blue Eye Spirit Dragon, swap it out for Stardust Spark Dragon, have Spark Dragon protect itself for the first turn it's out, so that it doesn't get destroyed during the end phase, and then during your opponent's turn you'll be able to target the Maiden with this effect to keep her from being destroyed once, which also lets you summon another Blue Eyes because you targeted Maiden with a card effect. I'm also running a few level 7 Light Dragon Synchros. Michael the Archlight's Horn is one of them. Let's pay 1,000, banish a card on your opponent's side of the field. I'm playing Ancient Fairy Dragon, which will let you swap field spells out. So being able to swap your Mausoleum for Secret Village or Dragon Ravine as you need it, and gain back some life points at the same time is very useful. And I'm also playing Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, which can bounce away cards like, say, Cosmo Wicked Witch, which usually gets special summoned off a long chain of spaceships that they're going to use to try to block you out until your next turn. You can, still during the battle phase, tribute Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon to summon Black Rose Moonlight Dragon, and then bounce away that special summoned Cosmo Wicked Witch so that the rest of your monsters can attack. With those three, the key to having these level 7 synchros is that, combined with one of your other level 1 tuners, they make Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon. This is the cover monster for Shining Victories. It's actually another card I really like. It's got your classic Blue Eye stats, level 8, attack 3000, defense 2500, but it can also negate the effect of any monster during either player's turn, and like Clear Wing Synchro Dragon, it'll gain the attack points of anything that it destroys with that effect. Also, if it's battling a level 5 or higher monster, like, I don't know, a Dark Destroyer or Dino Stir Power, it can gain attack equal to the attack of that opponent's monster, making it essentially, it basically just wins any fight against any other big monster. And any level 4 or lower monster probably can't beat it anyways. Speaking of can't be beaten in a fight, I am running one Blue Eyes Twin Burst Dragon. This lets you contact fuse by sending to the graveyard 2 copies of Blue Eyes White Dragon specifically. You can either fusion summon it or summon it by sending those 2 materials from your field to the graveyard. It can attack twice against monsters each turn and can't be destroyed by battle, and any monster that it doesn't beat, it banishes. So I actually really like this card. It's super useful against people who try to wall up. And I'm also running a few Choice Xyz monsters. Most important of them, I would say, is number 38, Hope Harbinger Dragon Titanic Galaxy. Not only does this let you negate a spell effect per turn and absorb it as Xyz material, it also lets you divert attacks away from your smaller monsters. So having, for example, this and Maiden out, even if you don't have Secret Village of the Spellcasters, as long as you know what spell you need to negate, usually the Monarch Stormforth, I'd say that's a pretty good one to negate, you can keep your Maiden on the field, even past her own built-in method of deflecting attacks, rather negating attacks. So basically, if your opponent tries to summon numerous monsters to get past your Maiden, you let the first through, use Maiden's effect to summon a Blue Eyes and negate it, and then any further attacks you just redirect to number 38. Got some non-targeting monster and spell and trap removal that also lets me clear out my hand of any excess monsters. That's Hieratic Sun Dragon, Overlord of Heliopolis. And then I'm also running a little suite of Galaxy Eyes Xyz monsters. Photon Dragon can get its attack up to astronomical heights with its effect, though damage will be halved. Or you could just immediately use it as Xyz material for Full Armor Photon Dragon. Also has 4,000 attack, but does not have its damage halved. And it also lets you detach a material to destroy something face up, which is really useful. And finally, we've got number 95, Galaxy Eyes Dark Matter Dragon. Dark Matter Dragon is what you want to use. I think it's more of an early game card than a late game card. When it's Xyz summoned by using, well, when it's summoned, you can send 3 differently named dragons from your deck to the graveyard to force your opponent to banish 3 monsters from their deck. Banishing the 3 monsters from your deck isn't the important part of this, it's sending the 3 cards to the graveyard. And that's another reason why I like having Flamvel Guard in the deck, because with Guard, White Stone of Legend, and White Stone of Ancients, it's possible to send 3 tuners to the graveyard and leave the Blue Eyes in your deck so that you can keep using the effect of Mausoleum of White and the White Stone of Ancients. As for other modifications that you could make, if you really felt the need, you could put Effect Veiler in your main deck, since you can search that out with Sage with Eyes of Blue. I just don't feel that it is particularly necessary in the main deck right now. I feel like I have a pretty good matchup with Monarchs, actually, and those are the main things that I would want the Effect Veiler against. It doesn't super help against things like Terror Top or most of the Cosmos, because they can just blink them out of existence to summon another ship. You could put in the 3rd Dragon Spirit of White if you wanted to. I wouldn't think that that's a mistake. That's probably a good idea if you find yourself running out of Blue Eyes in your deck to summon. If you need more special summoning, Beacon of White is a pretty good one. It's really easy to load up Blue Eyes into your graveyard, and being able to summon back a 3,000 attack monster and let it attack 5, 6, 7 times, however many times, one for every Blue Eyes monster in your graveyard, is a pretty good deal. And this card it's free. There's no cost to play it. You just have to have 3 or more in your graveyard at the time, and then just let one go crazy. 1 for 1 lets you special summon a level 1 monster from your hand or deck. I wound up taking it out because I didn't feel like I could support the cost of this, of sending 1 monster from your hand to the graveyard. But if you want to run a more monster-heavy deck, then you absolutely could. And it would make it even easier to get your combo. If you don't think you're drawing enough cards, or you think you're drawing too many stones, you could always include cards of consonants. Don't forget that the Sage can also grab one of the stones from your deck if you need to, so you essentially have an extra 3 Dragon-type tuners to discard for cards of consonants. It also works on that Flamvel Guard, if you're playing it. In the extra deck, there's all sorts of interesting stuff you can do. I wouldn't be surprised if you wanted to put another copy of Azurai's Silver Dragon into your extra deck. In fact, I might do it myself, since Interrupted Kaiju Slumber keeps seeing more and more and more play in the office. There's nothing you could do about a regular Kaiju summon, but if you suspect your opponent is playing Slumber, having the second copy of Azurai's in your deck would let you basically make an insurance play on the first turn. You would summon out your Spirit Dragon, and then immediately on your opponent's turn swap it out for Azurai's, so that you'd be protected from that particular spell card. And you'd still have another Azurai's in your extra deck to use normally later on if you need it. A fun combo that I toyed around with but didn't make this final deck was Ghost Trick Dullahan. If you have a case where you have 2 Blue Eyes and 2 tuners, you don't necessarily need to Synchro Summon twice. You could always Fusion Summon Blue Eyes Twin Burst Dragon and Xyz Summon Ghost Trick Dullahan. Ghost Trick Dullahan lets you detach an Xyz material, target 1 face-up monster on the field, have its attack until the end phase. That means that you can use it on your own Blue Eyes Twin Burst Dragon, which cannot be destroyed by battle, and any monster that doesn't actually destroy in battle gets banished instead. So by using Dullahan on your own Blue Eyes Twin Burst Dragon, you can probably banish 2 monsters a turn with its own effect. I thought that was cool, but it didn't come up quite often enough to make this deck list. Maybe it'll make yours. There's always Divine Dragonite Felgrand. I was playing this guy until I put the Flamvel Guard into my deck. It was basically the last slot on my extra deck was between these 2 cards, and when I didn't have Flamvel Guard, I didn't really want to put a Blue Eyes in my graveyard through Galaxy Eyes Dark Matter's effect, so I ran Felgrand instead, which gave me another way to negate things like Erebus. But once I put the Guard in, and that gave me 3 tuners to send, that's when I switched to Galaxy. But Felgrand's really quite good. And the last one is Phantom Fortress Interblathner. Sometimes you wind up with 2 level 9s on the field, and you want to Xyz summon something that has a little more offense power. Interblathner lets you banish cards from all over the place, 1 per turn. You can banish a card that your opponent controls, or from their hand at random, or from their graveyard, or the top card of your opponent's deck. And none of these effects target. You can use 1 of them each turn. And actually, a fun thing to do sometimes is you could also use Cloud Castle, that level 9 synchro from, I want to say, Duelist Alliance. That lets you special summon a level 9 monster from your graveyard when it's synchro summoned. So you could use that to pull back one of your Fallen Spirit Dragons, or more likely Tributed Spirit Dragons, and then immediately Xyz summon this. I wanted to focus a little more on just summoning all of my Blue Eyes all the time with this deck. So Phantom Fortress, Interblathner, and Cloud Castle unfortunately didn't make it for me, but you might like them. So that'll just about do it. This deck it's really, really fun to play. You can do so many amazing things with it. I really enjoy these new Blue Eyes cards, and I hope you at home will too. Remember, these new ones are all from Shining Victories. It is available now. And you know what else is available now is more videos on our official YouTube channel, youtube.com/official Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. That's where we are right now. You can also follow us on Twitter at Yu-Gi-Oh!_TCG. Our official Twitch channel is twitch.tv/official Yu-Gi-Oh! Channel. Keep an eye on that in the near future. And you can also follow us on Facebook at official Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG. I'll see you next time.